Okay, we're going to continue now. We're holding by Ois Gimel, but in Chelek Aleph Malchus, Chelek Aleph Perik Aleph Ois Gimel on page Tezvov. Just gonna, in order to make the picture clear, just do a little chazar on what we've done until now. We learned that what Malchus is that Malchus is the ability or the skill to bring something out lamaisa, to make it real. A lot of people have a lot of good ideas, good midos, but they don't have the opportunity to do it for various different reasons. Malchus is what gives that ability to bring something from its potential into reality. That was Aleph. And when Beis we brought out that actually the smaller that you are, the more you make yourself less, the more you can actually bring out the greater things. We brought Mashalim, David HaMelech, of Klal Yisrael, of the moon, that these are Mashalim of smaller things that can bring out the light of bigger things. The light of the moon, because it doesn't have its own light, that's why it can bring out the light of the sun. And Klal Yisrael is meant as the way of bringing out the Kedusha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the world. And Malchus Beis David is also meant to be that way. And at the end, we discussed how this is like a mirror. The mirror, the more that the mirror is pure, the more it can reflect everything. If the mirror has some emotions on it, has something on it, then it's not giving a full picture of what it should be reflecting, because it is taking away because of itself. So that's really what the idea of Malchus is to bring out Lamaisa, the Kedusha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to bring out Lamaisa, the Maisim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Midos of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because only HaKadosh Baruch Hu is true Malchus in the world. When we don't live now anymore in a door that has a real Melech, that has this ability and desire to bring out their Midos Lamaisa. So really, this is only applicable to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, starting in Gimel, he's going to bring out another inyan. We started to discuss it last week, and that is the inyan of Keter. And a king can be wearing a lot of different types of begodim. He can be wearing a lot of different types of royal clothing, but what shows that he's the king is his crown. That's what makes the king. That's what shows everybody that he's the king. What's the idea behind the Keter? But not the Keter, because when you're in the Keter, that means you're the king. That's what it means. You might be able to wear, very good. You might be able to wear the king's clothing, but you cannot wear the king's crown. That is for sure. That is only the king. So what is the idea behind the Keter? So over here in the beginning of Oz Gimel, he brings out in the third line over here, we daven Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, the days where being Mamlech HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we have the certainly amongst Ashkenazim the famous Zemer of V'yitnu Lecha Keter Melucha, that we want to give you that Keter, meaning we want to crown you the king over us. A little bit further down, and two lines later, where is it that the king is greater? The place where the king is greater than the rest of the nation, that is the sign that he's the king. In other words, the Keter is the sign. That is the sign that he is the king over us. So what does that mean? Is the Melech then above everybody else? There are many who view themselves, dictators or whatnot. They view themselves as king. They're above everybody else. They can do whatever they want. They can kill whoever they want. They can push around whoever they want. That's more of a dictator than it is a Melech. And then there are those who are very, very much involved with the people. But they can be so much involved with the people that they're not even looked at as a Melech. They're just like a regular guy, like everybody else. There's nothing special about them. The truth is that the Melech is the combination of both of them. The Melech is on the one hand much higher and above everybody else, which is what the siman of the Keter is. It's on the Rosh, because the Rosh, the head, is the essence of who you are. And it's above the Rosh to tell you, my essence is above everybody else, is above everything else. That's what the Kodesh Baruch Hu is. The Kodesh Baruch Hu is above everything else. However, he takes this greatness of his and he uses it in the world to bring out all of his midos in the world. He's not like a human being or a human king even that would be subject to the same Yetzer Hara, the same taivas that any regular human being would be subject to. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is above that, but yet brings Lemaisa all of his midos down into the worlds. This is what he says over here in the third paragraph. Amnam mahus malchus. The essence of what being a king is mitba'erez al yedei shtei bechinus elu gam yachad. These two ideas together. Sham melech moira meha'am. He's above everyone else. Ubetoch ha'am, but he's also amongst everybody. Hainu kidei she'eh seder b'soich ha'medina. In order for there to be order in the country, tzarich she'yavo mi sheyesh lo elyonis misham. He has to be above everybody else. You have to bring somebody who's above everybody else. Those little petty things, he's above all that. You have to have somebody who's above all those things. If you're going to have somebody who's subject to the same rules and regulations as everybody else, so then he's not above. Kadosh Baruch Hu is above everybody else. But yet, his whole tachlis is not to take advantage of the idea that he's above everybody else, but rather to use his elevatedness in order to bring chesed and emes and truth into the country. That one who's above everybody else, he's the one who goes in. So when he goes in, he's still elevated. Zoe mohus amitis shel malchus. That's what a melech really is. Now, in real life, it's very difficult to find such a person because most kings in the history of the world just take advantage of their position in order to just glorify themselves. That's the way kings have been for thousands and thousands of years. Many of the kings of Malchus Beis David, not all unfortunately, but many of the kings of Malchus Beis David did use their position in this way, that they did subjugate themselves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they understood that I'm only here to be the servant of Hashem in order to make this to make Eretz Yisrael a place where it brings out where I am the reflection of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But most of the time, the kings lower themselves to the same base things that the rest of the Am is doing, or sometimes they even are the leaders of those things. Not to bring out chesed and mishpat, but rather to lower everybody. Why? Because of their taivas, because they want to enjoy their power. A real melech is not a real melech. The way Malchus is supposed to be is supposed to bring the goodness of the elevated position and make it into the nation in order to bring those same things lemaisa to the nation. That's what we see. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does. I assume so. I mean, yeah, that's what we're waiting for. Malchus Beis David. Yeah. It's not. We're not.
We've never had a melech. You're saying we've never had a melech that's like that.
No. So we say that David HaMelech was like that. Yosem, it says the Gemara says about Yosem that he was such a huge tzaddik that he could be pater everybody all of Epis for generations. It says about Yosem. It says that Shlomo Melech was also an amazing king, and we don't know necessarily what happened at the end of his rule and what the pasuk says about him allowing his wives to do avodah zarah or whatnot. Chizkiyahu Melech was a tremendous tzaddik and had ruach hakodesh. Yoshiyahu Melech could have been Melech HaMashiach, except that he made a mistake and he didn't listen to the Navi about one thing and he ended up dying because of it. There were great kings, Yirei Shamayim, kings who embodied what it meant to be a true king of Klal Yisrael in order to bring the Kavod Shamayim into Klal Yisrael. But unfortunately, we still have not been Zoich to Mashiach, who's going to. Yes, it's going to be the whole faith of the whole world. We say, Ben David. Ben David, because this is what David embodied serving Hashem. That's it. Everything is about serving Hashem. When we say Tehillim, you can see it, you can feel it in his words. Everything is just about serving Hashem. He wasn't interested in his own kavod. He wasn't interested in all the lavish things that any king could have. And he was, maybe Shlomo Melech was the peak, you could say. But David Melech was building up the country on an international scale. People were terrified, which is why they didn't allow gerus during that Tekufa, because they were scared that people were only being megayer because they were scared of the Jews, not because they were doing it l'shem shamayim. And therefore, they didn't allow gerus except for certain exceptions, because that's what David was doing. David was a very, very strong, powerful king, but he was only doing it l'shem shamayim. He was trying to bring the kedusha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the world, and that's what Mashiach. We're waiting for Mashiach so that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can be the Melech. So that Mashiach can bring that same type of approach to the world of we're here to serve Hashem. And I'm the leader that's going to show you how to serve Hashem. Not that I'm taking it for myself, that I'm the king and everybody has to serve me. So Lamaisa, coming back, this Be'etzim is the whole purpose of the world. Moving down into the next paragraph. Start in the middle in the paragraph, in the first word in the line, Ella. Ella shuhu yizbarach im gadluso v'ramuso. Hashem, with His greatness, yamu'ura v'halach l'maisa mitoch olameinu. Hashem is amongst us all the time in this world. Hainu shashlita ma'isiz b'zoicho ilam titbateh al yedei sha'ut mosav yizbarach ve'en sof yoto yofia b'toich olameinu. The shlita of his ma'asim, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu rules the world and does everything in the world, it's because His essence is in the world. It's because He's here with us. Midoisav yizbarach hagadlus v'hanoirois hein asher yanhigu olam umalo'o. It's the midos of Hashem that lead the world and fill the world. Zuhi she'ipazenu. This is what we're waiting for. We're waiting for everybody to see that. To see that the world is run by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. B'tachlis kol ha'olam. That is the purpose of the world. V'zu kol avodaseinu alei adamos. This is what our purpose here in this world is. To serve Hashem, to bring out that HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. That's the whole tachlis of Bria. That's what our void is supposed to be, and that's what we want to see. That's what when Mashiach comes, that's what we want to bring out. To see the greatness of Hashem in everything that happens in the world. And before that happens, before we reach the time when Mashiach will be here, so we, Klal Yisrael, have to already accept this upon ourselves now. This is what he says on the top of the next page, halfway through the first paragraph. B'lachein, tzarech b'kol rega v'rega. Our responsibility, our job, is to always feel that Hashem is here with us. Hashem is running our lives. Hashem is running the world. We have to accept upon this ourselves. We have to live with it. He kabbalas omuch shemayim shleima. That's what it means to be kabbal o malchus shemayim. I'm accepting about myself the kingdom of Hashem. That Hashem is the melech. It is His malchus. What does that mean? It means that Hashem is in the world and is above the world. Hashem is midos, is above everybody else, but yet He is running the world. He is here with us and He's running the world every second. That's what it means to be a melech. So that's why here at the end, he comes back to the pasuk that we started with, L'cha Hashem Agrula V'Agvura V'Tiferes, and we said Malchus is the seventh midah, but by Malchus it says again L'cha. So Rapinkus is medayek. Why does it say? Why does it go back to the word L'cha a second time? So he explains that the L'cha is coming to specifically say that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu acts as the Melech and He brings out His koichos l'maisa in this world, the Malchus itself could be greater. We're going to explain this more when we get into Ois Dalet, but it's possible even that the midos of a Kodesh Baruch Hu can be elevated even. How exactly that is, if we've already reached the highest, so meaning we've already reached Shleimus. Malchus is supposed to bring out the Shleimus of all the other midos, is what we said in the first chelik over here, that's what what Malchus does, brings out each midah. So why does it say Lecha? It brings out that the element of Melech actually can make it even better, can make it even higher. Malchus, the Malchus. The fact that there is Melech can bring it to a level that is much greater or higher than you would, a person, let's say, a person could imagine the midah of Chesed, the midah of Gura, all the other midahs of the Kodesh Baruch Hu that are only in potential. Now the Malchus brings them out in actuality, so you might say, okay, so whatever is potential is brought out to actual. That's it. There's nothing greater than the potential. Potential is the max. That's as much as you can get. You can't get more than 100%. There's no such thing as more than 100%. Here he brings out an amazing idea that there is something more than that. Where does that more than that come from? That's the aspect of Malchus. The fact that he is Melech elevates all of those other midos to midos of Malchus. There's a higher level than even what potential tells you to be. A person can go beyond. They say when a person is in a sakana, so they have that adrenaline. So a person can do supernatural things. There's stories of women picking up cars because their children are underneath it. How is such a thing possible? Now you could look at it as, what do you mean? She always had the potential. Obviously, you see, she always had the potential to do it. It's just that the right matzav has to bring it out in order to see that potential. So that's one way you can look at it that way. Here he's going a little bit beyond that. Here he's saying, and it's a little bit hard to understand. Maybe we'll read it inside in order to explain a little bit better. I'm here in the second to last paragraph on Tez Zayin. Im kein ze perish apostle lecha shem agdula v'hagvura ulesof hamamlacha hainu mitzad echad, from one side, Moshe's bar le'el, we explained lo tzi lapoya gadluso v'gvuraso yisbarach hanizkar, that it brings out, the Malchus brings out all of those midas, gadlus and gvura, that we mentioned earlier in the pasuk. Aval adayin ein ze tachlis inyan Malchus. Bringing those inyanim out is not the end. Meaning it seems that in these midos there's a certain limitation to them. Each of these midos has its limitation. But Malchus has the ability to bring out each one of these midos on a higher level, on a supernatural level. That's above and beyond even what's in the potential. That's why it says Lecha the second time. They're even higher than the midos that were mentioned over here. Malchus can bring that out. So on the one hand, we say that Malchus is the seventh midah, and the seventh midah is the midah that brings mikoach lepoyo. It brings shleimus to all the other midos and brings them out. And on the other hand, we say that it can even do more than that. Because Malchus, like Keter, is above that even. It's even above what is the normal potential. That's the koyach that Hashem brings out by Malchus. So if we look at the whole picture so far, up until this point, if we look at the whole picture, we can say like this. The midah, the base midah of Malchus is to bring out the potential. Now Hashem has so many midos, but when are we going to bring them out in our physical world? That's what the midah of Malchus is. Midah of Malchus be'etzim is something that just reflects those midos. And the more pure it is, the more small it is, the more it has the ability to bring that out. Which is why we have a dugma even in our world of Malchus. Because that dugma of Malchus in our world is meant to bring out the greater Malchus. It's meant to bring out all of those koichos and make them lamaiseh. So we in the physical world can reflect that. We don't have the malchus of Hashem himself, but on our small level we can reflect that malchus of Hashem. And now here he's saying something bigger. That the malchus itself can be so great, it can go beyond what the natural, or what would seem to be the definition of any one of these midos, of even the shleimus of all of these mitzvahs. It can get you to higher levels. Why? Because when it reflects Hashem's greatness, when Hashem's greatness is reflected in this world, so then it ain't so. There is no limitation to the potential, to bring the potential to the actual. Potential sounds like there's a certain amount, so we bring the potential. By Kodesh Baruch Hu, there isn't just a potential, there's way beyond that, and that's what Malchus brings out. And with a few minutes left, we'll start on Dalet. Dalet is the last piece over here before we get into how this applies to Shabbos. He spends a whole lot of time over here explaining what is Malchus, in order so that when we can take this idea, this full idea of Malchus, and we can say, this is what's going on Shabbos. So in the last idea, he brings that when Malchus creates the completion of all things and it elevates all the other things, he brings a beautiful mashal, which is quite long because it basically runs through the entire Oiz Daled, this mashal. But he brings a mashal to bring out how one thing can bring everything else up with it and still be above everything. That's the idea behind Malchus. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes into the world and he brings all those potentials to actual, all those midos become realized. So then what happens is each one of those things is realized, but there's something still even greater than that. Then all of those midos being actualized, something greater than that. And what is that? That's Hashem himself. That's the Malchus of Hashem himself is greater than everything. The Keter. Hashem is still above everything. But all the things that he does with his Malchus, all the midos that he brings out, we'll see Hashem everywhere in the world. But what's bigger than seeing seeing Hashem in everything in the world is seeing Hashem himself. But for that, we'll talk about the Mashal Be'ez Hashem next week. We'll finish this piece next week, and we'll move on. How does this apply to Shabbos Be'ez Hashem? We'll start next week.